If you have ever questioned yourself as a parent or second-guessed your instincts, you're going to want to listen to this. Because here's the thing, about 20% of the students in any given school has dyslexia, and yet only 4 to 6% are being identified or given services. What does that mean for a parent who is suspicious that their child has a learning disability, but they keep getting told no? My name is Faye Bankler-Cassell. I'm a certified academic language therapist, a licensed dyslexia therapist, and your home reading coach. This is my channel, Teach My Child to Read. I talk to parents every single week, and I keep getting told the same stories over and over and over again, that they feel that their child should be reading better, that something's wrong, and either the school declines to test them or they get tested but not qualified for services. Now, I do want to preface this by saying that the school's intentions aren't necessarily bad, evil. They're not necessarily trying to trick parents. There's a lot of misinformation out there, including with schools and with school professionals. And it is insanity to me that we are still dealing with this misinformation, but I would like to lay that to rest today. Probably one of the biggest reasons that I hear parents being denied testing is the school says, well, we don't diagnose dyslexia. That is incorrect. Dyslexia is an educational issue, not a medical one, which is why insurance usually won't cover anything for dyslexia. There are some workarounds there, and if you want to know those workarounds, I'm going to put a link to my free ebook, which is the Dyslexia Roadmap for Families, down in the show notes. Now, here's the thing. The schools don't always call it dyslexia, but under federal law, they are obligated to test for learning disabilities. So when you make the request in writing, you can ask them to do a full comprehensive evaluation for specific learning disabilities in all of the reading, comprehension, writing areas, and also math. SLD, specific learning disability, is school speak for dyslexia. You can think of them as interchangeable, and you can ask for that if they say no to dyslexia. The next issue, this one gets me, is that the schools say we don't test until 3rd grade. I am sorry, boom, thank you for playing. No, ma'am. Science has shown us that we can identify dyslexia with 92% accuracy, I like those numbers, at age 5.5. So the subsequent arguments of, well, they need more instruction, they need more time in X grade, or they need to repeat X grade, does not hold. Because dyslexia is a learning disability that is phonological in nature. Phonological meaning hearing the sounds in words, manipulating individual sounds, which is the root of the issue, and it precedes reading. There are plenty of tests that can be done where you can determine with pretty high accuracy that the child has signs of dyslexia. So science does not back the waiting till 3rd grade. When a parent asks for testing in writing, the school is legally bound to do one of 2 things. 1, get the family to sign consent so they can begin testing. Or 2, meet with the family and give them what's called prior written notice, explaining to them in writing why they are declined testing. So let's keep going forward with other reasons they'll decline. I hear this one a lot. Your child passed our beginning of year assessment or has passing grades. So here are a couple of ways to push back on that. First of all, if your child's in kindergarten or first grade and they say, well, your child has great grades, or even second grade, I would say to them, 20% of the population, meaning 20% of my child's grade, is going to have dyslexia. Did 20% of those students fail this test? Is this a test that is designed to identify indicators and signs of dyslexia? No? Well, then it really can't be used as a data point, can it? Now, the best way to determine if there are signs of dyslexia, this is going to shock you, is to test for dyslexia. I'm being obnoxious, but I am telling you, I talk to families every week. It gets under my skin because there is no harm in testing. This one is my biggest pet peeve, and I wish I had a drum roll because it just gets me going. And that is that parents are being told, your child can't have dyslexia. She's too smart. Okay, so here's what I have to say to you about that. Dyslexia does not impact intelligence and IQ. It is not a measurement of intelligence. In fact, if you have a really smart child who comprehends so many facts, who has a great oral vocabulary, who is curious in asking questions about the world, but when you put an age-appropriate text in front of them, they cannot read it, that's actually a really good indicator that you're dealing with dyslexia. In fact, 4 or 5 US presidents, and I am not talking about the ones that none of us know of, I'm talking about your George Washingtons, likely had dyslexia. Now, here's another one that gets thrown around with families. The school will say, we haven't had a chance to push them into tier 2 intervention. Let's do that first, since you're concerned. So 2 things. The great thing about trying out tier 2 intervention is the minute that a learning disability is suspected, you do want to start intervening in the child's reading. And so the school should be doing that. That being said, going through a period of time in tier 2 reading intervention is not a prerequisite for getting tested, nor can the testing be held up because of intervention. So what that means is they still need to test or decline. And I would say if they're willing to try intervention, they can be willing to test. I think you're seeing a theme here, aren't you? So I want you to get out there and advocate. Now, if it doesn't work out with the school, you do have options. I've written this free mini ebook. It's the Dyslexia Roadmap for Families. It's got about 90 pages of things, ways to advocate for your kids, ways to find professionals to help your kids outside of school, who they are, what the certifying organizations are, ways to support their social emotional development, parent resources for you. So now you have some good retorts to the most frequent ways that schools discourage the identification or services of children who are suspected to have dyslexia by their families. I am the home reading coach. You can find me on socials at Home Reading Coach. And go ahead and subscribe and click like, because I want you to come back and I want you to know that if for any reason the school doesn't give you services, there are low cost and sometimes free options in your community or that you can do at home. And I have laid those out in this roadmap. The one thing you will never regret is going ahead and intervening, even if the school says no. Thanks so much.